Tonight are throwing the mother of all parties for former Prime Minister Tony Abbott. It was going to be for 400 people, now it's more than 1,100, and there's been a waiting list of people who couldn't get in. You see, Tony Abbott, it might be hated by the left and too many of the commentariat, but by Conservatives, he is loved. Now, speaking for myself as a friend, I think Tony Abbott is a deep thinker, a man of principle, very kind man, steeped in the tradition of Western civilization, and is loyal, very loyal, to a fault, I think, at sometimes in politics. Now, it's so sad that those virtues count for so little now, at least with Tony Abbott's critics. Anyway, the Liberals tonight honouring Tony Abbott for his 25 years in Parliament and the fact that he brought that party back from the dead and won the 2013 election with a huge margin. Joining me from the party at the Miramare Gardens in Sydney as the guests file in is Tony Abbott. Tony, it's great to see you. You must feel rather humbled by this turning out of so many people who want to wish you the best.
Look, I feel humbled, but I also feel grateful and exhilarated. I often used to think that the Abbott government was perhaps the least appreciated government we've had in recent times, and maybe that is finally starting to change, Andrew. So I've got to say, good on the Liberal Party for putting it on. Thank you to everyone who's turned up, and let's have a great night, and let's remember a wonderful political party and celebrate a great nation.
Now, the guests, of course, include a political who's who, Tony. You know, you've got the Prime Minister there, of course, a long list of ministers. You've got MPs, a lot of MPs there. You've got friends. Alan Jones is the MC. Can you? I don't know. This is going to be a hard question, I guess. But which guest are you most glad to see there? I mean, which guest would sum up the night for you?
Well, I guess my mum, because but for your parents, you're no one, you're nothing, you don't even exist. But obviously it's wonderful to be surrounded by family and friends, including people who have known me since my school and university days. And I guess if you've kept people for that long, when you were not much and then you were something and now you're not much again, they're true friends and they're the best friends.
Looking back over your 25 years in politics, what gives you the most satisfaction?
That's a good question, Andrew. I suppose bringing the coalition back into government in record time is something that was pretty special. The longer the current government lasts, I think the better its first 2 years will be regarded, and that's obviously pretty encouraging. I accept that there aren't that many happy endings in public life, but the fact that we've had a night like tonight makes it all seem even more worthwhile. But I guess stopping the boats, which no other country has successfully managed to do, and Australia's magnificent response to the MH17 atrocity would stand out for me as things that I was very, very satisfied to be involved in.
You know, you just mentioned there, I want to go a bit further into something you just mentioned. You know, sometimes I wonder, Tony, you know, like, I looked at you and I told you before, you know, privately, you know, you've congratulated me for something. I said, well, look, I admire you more because you're in there doing something. I'm just writing about it. That's nothing. But then, for the envy that I had, I'm thinking, what is the point of being Prime Minister? You get that high, and the way most people lose it, it is so hard. I think it drove Kevin Rudd nearly crazy. I think Malcolm Turnbull, I think, has just been knocked completely off his axis. He's so bitter. And I saw how it hurt you, Tony. It hurt me the way to see how much it had hurt you. Are you over some of that? Is this party helping?
Look, I suspect that there are always some scar tissue, but in the end you just have to accept the not so good with the good. As I said, a lot of life is unfair. You lose your job, it's unfair. You get sick, it's unfair. your family can go through the wars. It's unfair. The important thing is to have the resilience to cope with whatever life throws at you. And I'm perhaps a little lucky that my parents helped, my upbringing in every sense helped, and the friends and family that I have around me now obviously help. So look, you won't find any public complaints from me, and I hope as time goes by even the private complaints are much more muted than they were.
No, it wasn't. I'm not telling anyone that. I'm not trying to give people the impression you were private. I could just see it. That's all I'm saying. But I have to say, you know, a night like tonight has got to help put a little bit of that scar tissue, a little bit of you know, medicine on it,
bit of balm,
take the pain away.
Bit of balm on the bruises.
That's
exactly
the word
right.
I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you're on the board of the Australian War Memorial. I think that's not enough for a man of your talent and energies and ambitions for this country. What's the future for you?
Look, I never had a plan B, Andrew, and I still quite haven't worked out what is going to be the main focus of my post-parliamentary life. I'm a deputy captain once more in the local fire brigade. There's the Ramsay Centre for Western Civilisation. There's the War Memorial Board, and there are a few other little jobs, the odd speech and so on. But the thing about being Prime Minister is that it leaves you a little overqualified for a lot of jobs, and it probably means that some of the jobs that you could most readily do are no longer seemly to be done. I mean, the last thing I want to do is be offering a running commentary on my successors, because they deserve the space to create their own political personalities, to carve out their own legacy without constantly being judged by people like me. So look, I'm not sure. We'll see what Providence has in store for us.
Well, I hope it's sure something. Boris Johnson helping him to win might be good fun for a little while. But listen,
well, I've done my best. I've done my best there. Yeah, I've done my best there, Andrew.
You have.
I've been in London a couple of times, and I've done my best to reassure Britain that if there is one country on this earth that is more than capable of standing on its own 2 feet and making its own way in the world, it's Britain. The mother of parliaments, the world's common language, the Industrial Revolution, the beautiful game.
World War I,
These
World War II, you might add. Yeah.
And look, Britain saved democracy not once but twice in the last century.
Correct.
And the interesting thing is that of all the significant countries currently in the EU, the one major country that has nothing to be ashamed of in its 20th century history is Britain, which is one of the many reasons why I think that the British have always had a much more transactional approach to the EU than, say, Germany and France have.
Yeah, they might have been in it with their wallets, but not their heart. Well, if you're with the Ramsay Foundation for Western Civilisation, you should fund some of the small pinpricks of light that still exist in that, like Sky News. Speaking of civilisation, just finally, I'm out of time, but I've got to ask you, Australia, what shape do you think it's in?
Look, we continue to be the best country on earth in which to live and work. The challenge is to be as good as we can be. I'm confident that the current government is doing a good job, and the role of people like me is to offer them private encouragement and public support.
No, you're a public man. You're a public man. Scrap the private stuff, get out public, and I need people in the trenches out there where the flak is, Tony Abbott. I hope to see you there soon. Go back and feel the love in there, mate. You deserve it.
Thank you so much, Andrew.